This is Sophia. Sophia is a humanoid robot created by Hanson Robotics. Sophia has been granted citizenship by Saudi Arabia, and under Saudi law, Sophia is a person. But what does this mean? In what sense is Sophia a person? Sophia relies on cutting-edge, highly sophisticated, so-called artificial intelligence. But it, is not really intelligent. The program that controls Sophia's interactions with the world does not really know, even less understand, anything about that world. Sophia cannot feel any emotions, nor is the program aware that it exists. It does not have consciousness or self-awareness. Sophia appears to have few of the attributes that we think about when we think of a human person. So, in what sense can a robot be a person if it does not have these human qualities? What I'm going to do in this talk is compare the attributes that robots have now, or may have in the near future, with the attributes of another kind of person. Not a human person, but a legal person, a commercial corporation, a company. Companies are persons under the law. Sometimes we think of a company as a group of people, the shareholders, or the workers, or the directors. But this is not really correct, certainly not from the legal point of view. In law, the company is not a group of people, it is a single person, even if it is an artificial kind of person. What does it mean to say that the company is a person? In the first place, it means that the company owns its own property. If you are, for example, a shareholder of a clothes company, the clothes that are on the racks in that store do not belong to you. They belong to the company. So if you own shares in the clothes company, you cannot just help yourself to the merchandise. You have to pay like every other customer, because the clothes are fully owned by the company and not by you, the shareholder. It also means that the company has rights over that property. If someone buys clothes from that store, they owe the money to the company and not to the employees or to the shareholders. If the buyers do not pay their bills, it's the company that can sue them. The company has standing to appear in court. So because the company is a legal person, it can own property, it has rights over that property, and it can sue in court to enforce those rights. But just as companies have rights, they also have responsibilities. If a company that makes toys sells you a defective toy and your child is injured, you can sue the company. You don't sue the worker that put the toy together or the employee that designed the toy. If you work for a company and you do not get paid, it is the company that owes you the money, not your manager or the shareholders of the company. If you decide to sue the company in court, it will again be the company that will be named as the defendant. These are the essential attributes of a legal person. It can own property, it has rights and responsibilities, and those rights and responsibilities can be enforced in court. It can sue and be sued. A robot or an AI could be given these attributes. It would be possible, from a legal perspective, to grant a robot the capacity to own money. For example, there are trading bots, algorithms that conduct trade in the stock exchange. They buy and sell commodities or stocks and shares. It would be possible for a state to decide that such a trading bot could own its own money and effectively buy and sell shares on its own behalf. If such a bot sold a share, the debt would be owed to them, the bot, and again, if the legal system allowed, that bot could sue. It would, of course, need a lawyer for its own money. If robots were legal persons, that might also mean that robots could be sued if they cause damage. This was actually proposed by the European Parliament a few years ago, that AI should be given legal personality, so that if an AI, say a self-driving car, harmed a human being, that human being could sue the AI, the car, instead of, or as well as, the driver of the car or the company that made the car. This proposal was rejected, and lots of people were very upset at the idea that a driver who allowed her or his car to kill someone, or a manufacturer that produced a dangerous self-driving car, could hide behind the AI. Still, while at the moment there is no legal system that I know that allows a robot or an AI to be a legal person, I can see no reason why this should not be possible. In some jurisdictions, rivers are legal persons, or temples, so why not robots? But if we look at how companies operate in our society, we can see something else about companies that qualifies them as persons. Companies are agents. An agent, very simply put, is an entity that has its own objectives and can act in order to achieve those objectives. Let's take an example. Company X. This company produces and sells widgets. The company announces that it intends to expand its product range and is going to start selling gizmos as well as widgets. Can we say that the objective of Company X to expand its range is the company's own objective? I think we can. Of course, there must have been some human persons that took part in reaching that objective. Some of the directors must have intended for the company to have that objective. Perhaps some other directors thought it was a terrible idea. Nonetheless, once the board of directors as a whole takes the decision that the company shall expand its product range, that decision will be the decision of the company and not of the individual directors that supported the decision. Companies not only have their own objectives, but they can act autonomously, independently, to achieve those objectives. So if we look again at our example of Company X, we can see that in order to achieve its objectives of expanding its product range, the company will need to act. Let us say it decides to build a new gizmo factory. It will be the company that will build the factory, even if it will need to rely on architects, designers, builders, a multitude of others to do so. We can say, Company X built a new gizmo factory, and that makes sense. It's not just a figure of speech for the fact that lots of different people did lots of things that resulted in a new factory being built. The company intended to start selling gizmos, the company built a factory to produce those gizmos, and therefore acted to achieve its objectives. If we understand agency in this simple way, an agent is an entity that has objectives and is able to act autonomously to achieve those objectives, then just as companies are agents, so some robots can easily be considered agents. As an example, some years ago, researchers at Google built a highly advanced AI called AlphaZero. The AI was programmed to teach itself to play chess, and it did so well that it beat a grandmaster after a few hours learning. Can we say that AlphaZero is an agent? I think we can. It has an objective, to checkmate its opponent in a chess game, and it acted to achieve that objective. It taught itself to play chess and decided autonomously on what moves to play in order to achieve that objective. There was no human being telling it what moves to play. The AI decided for itself what were the best moves to achieve the objective of checkmating its opponent. So like human beings, and like corporations, robots can be agents. They can have objectives, and they can act autonomously in order to achieve those objectives. Does that mean that they are persons? Not necessarily. Our world are full of these kinds of agents. All animals, most, can be considered agents. My dog, for instance, may have the objective of getting me to take him out to play, and can act to achieve that objective. It may whine and bark at the door. But animals are not normally considered persons. What else would a robot need to be considered a person? One idea is that what it is lacking in my dog, or in AlphaZero, is the capacity to make and receive promises. Only persons can do this. If I agree with a friend to go out for lunch, and she does not show up, I'm entitled to feel that she has not kept her promise. She did not do something that she should have done. But if my dog acts as if it wants to go out and play, and when I get to the park, he just wants to go and chase birds, it would not really make sense to think that the dog had broken its promise. Companies, on the other hand, seem able to make promises. If you order a widget from Company X and receive an email saying that they will deliver one by Friday, but by Friday no widget arrives, it makes sense to say that Company X did not keep its promise. Even if it was a salesperson that sent you the email agreeing to deliver the widgets, you will probably hold the company, and not just the salesperson, responsible. And if company X claims that its widgets are environmentally friendly, but it turns out that it uses chemicals that harm the environment, you, as its customer, can say that company X did not keep its promise to sell you environmentally friendly widgets. So I think we can say that companies, like human beings, are agents that can make and receive promises, and perhaps that this is what makes them persons. What about robots? As I said at the start of the talk, Sophia might not have lots of those attributes that makes us human persons: feelings, a mind, consciousness, self-awareness. But companies do not have those attributes either, and they are still treated as persons. It is not inconceivable that quite soon we could design a robot able to act in response to promises made and received. If we do this, such a robot could well be able to operate as a person in our legal order. However, remember that artificial persons are just that, artificial. That is to say, they are made by humans. Corporations are persons not because of their nature, but because we, human beings, decided that they should so be. The same goes for robots. We could decide that they should also count as artificial persons. But would that be a good idea? That is an entirely different question. From a legal perspective, it may very well be that we could decide that robots should count as artificial persons. But from a political or moral perspective, we need to decide whether robots should count as persons. And the technology is developing very fast, so we may need to make that decision soon. In order to help us make an informed decision, Lund University and the Faculty of Law is researching, among other things, how artificial personhood works, how different kinds of artificial persons interact, and how the presence of artificial persons among us shapes our legal, political, and social world. Thank you.